Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Disgruntled Yid, formerly called the Disgruntled Believer. I changed the name because I was worried that people were going to think that I'm a Christian, because a lot of Christians when they refer to themselves, they call themselves believers. Actually, I have a relative like that, and I realized that if I call the show that, people are probably going to think I'm Christian, and then they're going to tune in and they're going to be very confused. So I changed it to the Disgruntled Yid. Yid is a term for... It's an interesting term because it's a term for Jewish people, but it's sort of, not completely, but it's kind of, in a way, like the Jewish version of the N-word. And I'll explain why. Most people know the word... Well, I really don't want to say it because I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube, so I'll spell it out. It's K-I-K-E. That word. And that's usually the word that people know because it's the most, well-known slur. But actually, in a way, Yid fits much better. And I'll tell you why. Because if it's used by a non-Jewish person, not all the time, but very often, when it's used by someone who's not Jewish, it's being used in a way that's offensive, intentionally. But amongst Jews, especially Ashkenazi Jews that, are descended from Jews that lived for centuries in Europe, notice how I don't say came from Europe? Because we really gotta, start changing our language and the way we talk about things to we could have more clear, direct, honest language. I really feel it's very important. And, I don't say that came from Europe, because Jews do not come from Europe. Jews are Middle Eastern. We come from the Levant, from what today is Lebanon, Western Iraq, parts of Western Iraq, Southern Syria, Israel, and I think I said Lebanon, right? And Lebanon. That's what historically was called the Levant, and that's where we're from. And we're Levantine. We're Levantine people from the Middle East. Just like there's Syrian people. There's people from North Africa are North Africans. People from the Levant are Levantines. So I don't say that I don't say we came from Europe anymore, because that implies that that's where we're originally from, and we're not. And that's one of the biggest things that our enemies use against us these days. They go, these people think that they belong in Israel, or in Palestine, but they're not even Middle Eastern. They're white. They're from Europe. Never mind the fact that apparently they think that the Ashkenazic Jews are descendants of the Khazars, who are Turkic converts to Judaism, which, by the way, is highly contested if that whole thing even was real at all. There might have been a small little kingdom that converted, but overall, over the past 20 years, all the genetic studies have shown that Jews that are Ashkenazi have a Middle Eastern lineage. Yes, they do have European genetic features from intermarriage and stuff, but originally they trace back to the Middle East. So we do belong there. It's in our blood. No matter what, regardless of what our enemies say, the science has proven it over and over again. But what I want to talk about today is a very long subject, but I keep putting it off, and I just kind of want to just do it, get it done. So I'm not going to do a whole big long video. I may do one more in depth later on. But I wanted to do a video, because I have to go to work in a little bit, but I wanted to get one done before I gotta leave, and before I get ready to leave. So I wanted to talk about, like, sort of my approach to religion and religiosity. Now, generally speaking, there are two modes, well, particularly if you talk to Orthodox Jewish people, there are two forms of non-Orthodox religiosity. Now, first of all, a lot of people are under the impression, and they not impression, but they still use the language of, if they're not Orthodox, they say, oh, I'm not religious, implying that only Orthodox Jews are religious, which is just not true, though. There are a lot of people who cannot be considered Orthodox, but who can definitely be considered religious. I mean, what would you say about Reform and Conservative rabbis who are not Orthodox? Would you say they're not religious? They're literally religious clergy. That doesn't make any sense. What they mean when they say this is that they go, oh, well, they're not like the real religion, which is Orthodox in their mind. Now, there's two different modes of how this generally goes. There's the actual movements and ideologies, so there's Reform, Conservative, Humanistic Judaism, which I would argue is not really Judaism, but we won't get into that. Oh, I'm sorry. I just woke up, so I'm still a little tired. I haven't had my coffee yet. But so they would view it. Oh, so there's and there's with that, that's more ideological. Like, they have like a philosophy and an ideology behind what they believe and the way they make their decisions and all of that. Then there's an attitude that it's more functional, and what I mean by that is that it's practiced in a way that the person may not be fully, totally observant, but they still believe in it enough that they put in the effort. And so these are kind of people, for example, who would go to a lot of like Sephardic and Mizrahi, like Middle Eastern Jews are like this. Like, if they're going to go to shul, if they're going to go to a synagogue, they're going to go to to an Orthodox. See, now I'm breaking my own rule that I just explained. They're going to go to, but that's how it is in people's minds. Even though I don't believe that, even I say it because it's so common. So, there's people like that, if they do go to synagogue, when they do go, they're going to go, to an Orthodox one. To one where the prayers are going to all be in Hebrew. They're going to do all the parts of the prayers. They're not going to skip them. Men and women are going to be sit separately. Women are not going to be called up to read from the Torah, etc. And then afterwards, they'll drive home, or they'll go see a movie, or whatever. That is not a function of their ideology, though. They don't have an ideological defense for doing that. They just do it. It's just functional. It's just practical. And that's sort of the big difference between the two, I'm sorry, I'm yawning so much. That's sort of the difference between the two, ways that people tend to observe. And honestly, the first one, the ideological one, is not really, it doesn't really have any power anymore. I think it's almost virtually dead at this point. The idea of it was to basically build this grand ideological structure and then all these institutions that would basically justify reforms in religious practice. And it went really, really, really far, to the point where you even had a thing where there was a Hebrew Union College where Reform rabbis were graduating, and they had a meal They had two meals. They had a kosher meal, and then they had a meal of complete out-and-out treif, like ham, shrimp, lobster. And the idea was that they were honoring the Reform ideology of individual autonomy, that the mitzvot do not, only the moral mitzvot, like, don't kill, don't steal, etc., are obligatory in the absolute. But when it comes to ritual, we have individual autonomy to decide whether we're going to observe or not. Which in a way is sort of like is like the functional one. The only difference is that the people that do it that way, the functionally, they don't have an ideology behind it. That's just the way they're just living their lives. They're not doing it because of an ideology. In fact, a lot of them don't even really have that sort of mindset. So when I say, when I bring up and I call myself religious, but I say that I'm not orthodox, that's why I do that, because I don't want people to get the impression that, like, for example, if they come to my house, that they would have no worry about the kashrut of the food, because even though I do keep kosher, I don't keep kosher on the level that a lot of Orthodox people do, and so my house would not be acceptable for them to eat in, and so I would not call myself Orthodox, or I would specify that I'm not Orthodox, so that they would not feel tricked, or have to question, I could tell them, look, if you're looking for kosher, like the Orthodox full standard, don't eat at my house. I do keep kosher, but not to your level, and it's probably not going to be acceptable to you. A lot of that has to do with practicality, the fact that there's just not a lot of kosher places around. And so the way I do it is I do the main stuff. Like, I don't eat non-kosher meat. So I don't eat anything that's not, like, I don't eat ham or pork or shellfish or any of that. The animals that are kosher that I do eat, I only eat them if they're kosherly slaughtered. So chicken, beef, etc. So I eat a lot of Hebrew National. Because that's like the only thing there ever is that's kosher. And then I don't eat meat and dairy together. If I eat dairy, I either wait at least 30 minutes or I rinse out my mouth really thoroughly before eating meat. And if I eat meat, I wait 3 full hours before I can eat dairy, because those are the laws of kosher. So I keep the general laws of kosher. When it comes to Shabbat, I don't work on Shabbat. I don't go to school on Shabbat. Well, I don't go to school at all anymore, but if I were in school, I would not go on Shabbat. I would get exemptions for those days, or for Jewish holidays, rather, I should say. I don't shop on Shabbat. I don't go out to the store. I don't do shopping online. Like, if I want to order something online, I won't do it on Shabbat. I'll either do it before or wait till Shabbat's over. Honestly, I don't pray 3 times a day, even though I know I should. But I do put on Talis and Tefillin. I admit I don't, the prayer shawl and the black boxes, I admit I don't do it every day. Well, you're not supposed to do it on Shabbat and the holidays anyway, so of course I don't do it then. But even on the regular days when you're supposed to do it, I often have at least 1 or 2 days of the week I just skip it. Either out of laziness or I just forget or whatever, And the thing is, like, because I do love it, and I do believe in it, and I do want to follow it. But at the same time, look, I am human, and I have my limitations, and things come up. Like, for example, sometimes I wind up going to the out to the farm or to the ranch with my brother and his wife. They live on a ranch, well, She lives full-time because she works online. She lives full-time there, but my brother lives with me. We share an apartment. And when he goes off to the ranch, on the times I go with him, more often than not, we leave on Friday nights, well after sundown. Well, yeah. If it's night, of course, after sundown. So well into Friday night, like 10 or even 11 o'clock at night, where it's already Shabbat. Now, you're not supposed to travel on Shabbat. Now, what am I to do? Like, let's say we're going to travel because we're gonna have, let's say Christmas is Saturday, right? And we're gonna go to her family's Christmas party on Saturday night. Which again, you could say, oh, you shouldn't be going to Christmas parties. Okay, well, look, I don't eat the non-kosher food, and I don't go saying I'm celebrating Christmas. I go to be with people, just to say hi, and they wish me Happy Hanukkah, and they say Merry Christmas, and I go, thank you, Merry Christmas. I don't make oh, well, excuse me, I observe Hanukkah. No, I don't do that because I'm a mensch. I have respect. I'm not an asshole with my religion. I really don't, I mean, I know sometimes maybe I come off that way, but I really try not to shove it in other people's face. And I really try to keep it, low-key to myself. I don't try to make a big giant spectacle out of it. I really don't. One, because I just don't like to, because it's embarrassing. I'm not that kind of person. But also just, I think it's wrong to do that. So let's say that scenario, right? And we're leaving Friday night, right? And what am I going to do? Go, no, I'm not coming. And I'm not going to go to the party. I'm just going to stay here because I can't go with you because it's Shabbat. Well, if I were coming from an Orthodox perspective, that's exactly what I should do. But again, I'm not Orthodox, so I don't do that. So I will go with him. What I'll do is I'll go with him, but I won't officially start my Shabbat till I get there. So once I get there, I'll go, and again, I don't make a spectacle out of it. I go, I get a little drink, I get some bread, I do my little kiddush privately to myself, and then I eat. Usually by the time we get there, I'm hungry, and, my brother's wonderful, lovely wife has prepared something delicious for me. So usually, I'll go and I'll do my little blessing on the kiddush, usually that I'll grab a can of some sort of alcohol, if there's no wine, because that's what you're supposed to do. But if that's not even available, sometimes I'll just use soda, and instead of the blessing for wine, I'll say just the general blessing that you say on drinks, along with the Shabbat part of the prayers. And then I'll wash my hands, I'll do my little blessing on the bread, I'll eat it, and then I'll go and I'll eat my meal, and that's it. I don't make it into a giant big production. Is that technically correct? No. Am I violating Shabbat by Orthodox standards when I do that? Yes. But also keep in mind that I also watch television on Shabbat, and I also use electricity. Well, I mean, I turn lights on and off. Because I'm just not convinced that that's really part of the prohibition of Shabbat. Now, I don't light fires. I don't cook. I don't turn lights. I do turn on electric lights, but and I do use heaters as well. That's a bit more iffy because that's probably more close to lighting a flame, but basically, the way I see it is electricity is not really fire, because it's not. So I don't view it the same way. So, for example, I wouldn't view using a microwave on Shabbat the same as using a gas oven to cook uncooked food. So if there's food that's in the fridge and it's cold but it's been previously cooked and it needs to be reheated, I will use the microwave because I don't consider that cooking per se. But if food is not cooked beforehand, I won't use the microwave and cook it on Shabbat if it's not been cooked before, because I do understand that the heat part of it will cook the food, which is the violation. But using electricity, I don't view as a violation because I don't really view that as actually really truly lighting a fire in that sense. And again, this is not, this is the almost pretty much all Orthodox authorities, actually all Orthodox authorities don't agree on this. They say that my approach is incorrect. But I mean, what do you want me to do, you know? I'm not going to be that guy that goes around and inconveniences people because of the way I have to do stuff. I make compromises. At the end of the day, I do have faith. I believe in God. I believe in the Torah. I may not believe all the stories in the Torah literally happened the way they're presented in the Torah, but I do believe that they all at least have a core historical kernel of truth that they are based on, even if they were exaggerated and turned into, like, over time to, like, stories that are, you know, to stories that are completely mythological, with completely mythological made-up elements. But, like, for example, I may not believe that, like, 3 million Jews left Egypt and walked through the desert for 40 years, but I do believe that there were a group of people who left Egypt and wandered in the desert, met God at Mount Sinai, got the laws of the Torah, and then went to the land of Israel from there. I happen to believe a little bit of a different version of it than the Torah version, because I accept the consensus of archaeologists and researchers about this issue. And I may do another video another time much more in depth about all this. But that's the way I generally try to do things. And now, when I call myself a neo-Breslover, I do that to imply that I am a follower of Rabbi Nachman, and I consider him my spiritual guide in life, and I rely on his teachings as my main sustenance and source for inspiration and, you know, comfort and encouragement and all of that sort of stuff in my spiritual endeavors. But I use the phrase neo because I read an article once, and in it, it was called breast lovers, neo breast lovers, and half breast lovers, and sometimes breast lovers. It was something like that by Rabbi Arthur Green. And he was talking about how in Israel, particularly, Rabbi Nachman is almost like a folk hero. And even non-religious Israelis, like, they'll have the little Nanach Nachman, and they'll read the little booklets of Rabbi Nachman, because he has stuff that's so universal that applies to everybody, not even just to other Jews, but even all people. He has these ideas about happiness and, you know, persistence and joy and, you know, getting past struggles and all those things, that sort of thing. So his teaching is very popular in that sense. And so the term neo, like with the term lahavdil, neo-Nazi, for example, neo just implies that a movement has come about, or a set of ideas are either very heavily reliant on and related to another body of ideas, but with a new twist or a new take on them. And so that's why I use the term neo-Breslov. Because I do consider myself Breslov, because I follow Rabbi Nachman, but I use the term neo because I don't want to give people the impression that I'm fully, completely, strictly Orthodox and do everything strictly according to the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, exactly, you know, because more often than not, I don't. But I'm not a secularist, and I'm not an atheist. I do believe, and it is important to me. Even when I was an atheist, even when I was a staunch atheist, my Judaism, at least culturally, was always still important to me. And so it's always going to be important to me, no matter what happens. And I've just happened to be at a place in my life the last several years that I now have come to believe in God again. And to me, the religious practice of Judaism is the most fulfilling. But this may sound like pick and choose or cafeteria religion, but I object to that. And here's why. If it was truly cafeteria religion, I probably wouldn't keep kosher. I'd probably, not work on Shabbat and tell people I don't work on Shabbat, because I like that part. But I'd probably still eat ham sandwiches, because that would be cafeteria religion. That would be pick and choose. But that's not what I do. because I do set limits for myself. And I do have times where I'm like, oh my god, that looks so fucking good. I really want to eat that, but I know it's not kosher, so I begrudgingly, I surrender, I don't do it. Or there might be like things where I want to go out and do something on Shabbat, that I don't have to do, like, but I really, really want to do it, but I know I shouldn't. Like, for example, if I've already purchased it in advance, I will go to a movie on Shabbat. Which I know, you shouldn't do that, I know. But I will go and I'll scan like a little QR thing. But if I haven't paid for the movie in advance, and I see suddenly like Friday night a movie I want to go see, I won't do it. And I'll wait and I'll see it the following. I'll wait and I'll pay before Shabbat and see it the following, weekend or sometime during the week usually. More often I'll try to do it like that. And so, that's but if I didn't do it, if it's Friday night, I just go, oh well, I really want to go, but I don't. So that shows I'm not doing pick and choose, just pick what you like and leave what you don't like. Because if I did that, there would be no restrictions. It would truly just be do whatever I want. But I do have restrictions, and I do limit myself, and that's why I do object to anybody trying to tell me I'm practicing pick and choose or cafeteria, religion, or cafeteria observance of being religious. But the fact is, the way I was raised from my whole life, I was basically raised that this is your identity, this is your being, this is your whole everything. Eating, there's prayers to make. I keep kosher. You gotta say prayers in the morning when you wake up. It's 24. It's a constant 24/7 thing. And no, I don't keep all of it 100%. But I do believe in it enough that I believe in I believe in making the effort. And it is precious to me, and I do cherish it. It is meaningful to me. And I do enjoy it. So, that's pretty much how I observe. So, I don't deceive people by telling them I'm Orthodox, because that would be dishonest. But at the same time, I don't say I'm not religious, because because religious, the word religious is not a Torah term. It's not even a Torah concept. There is no, in Judaism, there is no secular and religious. There's, you follow the Torah, or you don't follow the Torah, or you follow the Torah, but you're not perfect. You make a lot of mistakes. So I'm kind of the middle one. I don't follow the Torah 100%, completely, every dot of the Shulchan Aruch, but at the same time, I'm not a secular humanist atheist. I do believe in God, and I do believe in the Torah, and it means a lot to me, and it's special to me, and I do follow it, and I'm spitting, and I do love it, and so, but I don't do it perfectly, but it means enough to me at least to try. And so, I guess that's not, I don't know why I thought it was going to be a long, drawn-out video. I guess if I wanted to get more into my background and the history of the shift in my ideology over the years, I would do that. Maybe I will do a video like that in the future. But, for now, especially because I gotta start getting ready for work now. So I figured I'd just make a shorter 30-minute video. So, but to end off, so that's kind of that's sort of how I practice my Judaism. On Facebook and stuff, you'll notice that I say I am religious, because I am. I believe in God, and I do observe the Torah. I do observe many of the mitzvot, and I do my best. And I do struggle. I do put in the effort. I make my hishtadlus. I make my effort in it. But at the same time, I don't want people to get the impression, oh, you're Orthodox, so if I go to your home, I could eat kosher without worrying about it. Because for example, I don't eat treif, and I don't eat meat and milk together, but I don't use separate dishes for meat and milk. If I have dairy on a plate, I won't use it for meat. Or if I am going to use it for meat, I'll wash it super thoroughly first and then use it. But I don't have separate complete dishes for meat and milk, like you're supposed to do, if you're going to be orthodox. So that's why I tell people I am religious, but I'm not orthodox. So, and people that want to judge me or they want to come down and lecture me for it, hey, first of all, would you rather I don't do anything? You know, it's not a zero-sum game. See, for a long time, I used to believe like it was. I used to think like, oh, well, you either have to do all of it completely, 100%, or you're just a hypocrite and don't do any of it. And there are people that think that way. They're like, you either do it or you don't. Well, unfortunately, fortunately, happily, Judaism doesn't function like that. Judaism is not an all or nothing thing. Judaism is, there's an idea that rather than saying, oh, I don't do a mitzvah, or I don't do a certain mitzvah a certain way, rather than saying I don't do it, there's a philosophy of saying I haven't done it yet, or I don't do it yet. So, like somebody, like for example, like, since I don't keep Shabbat 100%, right? Like with all the details and rules and everything. But rather than saying I don't keep Shabbat, I just go, or just say I'm never going to keep, I'm never going to keep Shabbat fully or whatever. I just go, you know what? Perhaps in the future I will do it fully, but I don't do that yet. It's in the cards. And what that does is it doesn't rule anything out. It says nothing's off limits, nothing is ruled out ultimately. And that sort of idea of I don't do it yet. Not that I don't do it, but I don't do it yet. Which means I will at some point. I'll get to it. But I'm not there yet. I'm doing baby steps. And that's sort of and by the way, both of those approaches are completely legitimate, even according to the Orthodox. Even according to Orthodox standards. Because like with people that are belly tshuva, that are not really come from a secular background and don't know anything, of course they're not going to keep all the mitzvahs immediately because they don't even know. They're going to have to start baby steps and little by little. And what an Orthodox rabbi is not going to come up to them and shame them for it. No, you need to do it all, or why are you even bothering? I'm not saying that there are no Orthodox rabbis that would do that, but those ones are in the minority, and they're generally considered wrong for doing that. Because you work with people. And I believe ultimately that God is our Heavenly Father, and He loves us. And He's Avinu Malkeinu. He's our Father and our King. He is our King. We do need to be loyal to Him. We do need to follow Him and do what He says and love Him. And, but at the same time, and keep His laws, His mitzvot, but and pattern our lives based on what He would want. But at the same time, He's Malkeinu, but He's also Avinu. He's also our Father. He loves us. He cares about us. He wants to be in relationship with us. The point of the Torah is not to ruin your life and to take away all your ability to have fun because, I can't have fun, I gotta serve God. No, the point of the Torah is to enrich your life and to make it deeper and make it more meaningful. For example, the laws of kashrut are meant to take eating and take it from the mundane, physical, animalistic aspect that it is and elevate it into something meaningful and spiritual. It becomes part of your relationship with God. It brings Hashem, it brings God into your eating. When you keep Shabbat or when you keep the Jewish holidays, that brings God into your schedule, into your timeline. When you pray, that brings God into your daily activities. When you stop to pray, it brings God into your day-to-day life. And so rather than being a burden, the fact that there's literally a mitzvah for every aspect of life, it's not meant to weigh you down and make you feel oppressed. It's meant to say, rather than seeing it's, you have to do all these obligations, I like to look at it as the Torah gives us all these limitless opportunities to make our lives more sanctified and to bring God into our lives in every possible way. Like I said, keeping kosher or making a blessing before we eat brings God into our eating. Keeping Shabbat and the holidays brings God into our timeline, into our schedule. Stopping to pray during the day. Now the thing is, I don't pray 3 times a day, but I do daven Ma'ariv. I do the nighttime prayer. And even though I don't daven Shacharis, I don't do the morning prayer, I do put on the tallis and the tefillin, and I recite the Shema, usually right before I leave for work, which actually I need to actually get to that, so I'm going to end this here. But yeah, that's generally how I practice my Judaism. Some may love it, some may hate it, some may think it's wrong, but hey, you know what? At the end of the day, it's a free country, and ultimately, it's between me and God, and it's about a relationship. It's about love. I don't see it as an obligation or a job. To me, it's about being in loving relationship with my Heavenly Father. And I think that all Jews that are not Orthodox, but that do care, you should start calling yourselves religious. Don't call yourself secular. Don't say, oh, I'm not religious, because it's not true. You are religious. The word religious is not a Jewish category word. So it's not, don't think about it in those terms. Think about it secularly, like when you talk to people that are not religious or they're not Jewish. The term used the way they would use it, the term religious. And in that sense, if you keep anything, yeah, you very much are religious. You might be very religious or a little bit religious, but you're still religious if you do believe and keep certain things. And that's why I'd say, yes, I am religious. I am a religious Jew, and I'm a believing Jew, but I'm not Orthodox. Or, if I want to put it more with everything we said, I'm not Orthodox yet. I may be someday, but not yet. I am religious now, but I'm not Orthodox. At least, not yet. Anyway, I gotta get ready to go to work. So, I love you all, and thank you. And I gave you guys a twofer this week. I gave you a 2-for-1 special. And I will have that posted up on Facebook for you guys to check that out with the links to this episode in the comments below. Anyway, I love you guys. Have a good one, and see you next time.